Thank you so much for staying with us, as well as the people who are watching this evening, as we get to the conversation roughly around the state of the nation. But I realize that this evening, the state of the nation is largely about elections. And when I talk about elections, gentlemen, it crosses borders to basically what has played out in Guinea-Bissau. And it leaves me with this question, and Prof, because I have not hosted you before, I'll start with you. Does Africa really need an election? Because after every election, you see the kind of chaos that we get to witness today, and that today a president is not holding power because of a contested election. They have been ousted, if you'd want to call it that way. And the military has taken over, taken charge until further notice, as they would declare. Looking at our neighbors, Tanzania, their system pretty much interesting, where once an election is done, no one goes to court to contest. We never imagined it could get that close to Tanzania. Right. Do we really need an election? Because the essence of an election is to get good governance, but this is not what is happening in Africa.
In fact, the issue really is about governance. And starting with, of course, Guinea-Bissau, there's a coup there, and that is linked directly with poor governance of the incumbent who again, had purportedly won this particular election. But Tanzania is a good case because just like Kenya, Tanzania was a one-party state and ran for very many years by Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. And the question was Tanzania actually stable during that one-party rule? The truth of the matter is that it was. Okay. There was good governance in a one-party system. And you can get poor governance in a one-party system, because now, Tanzania is purportedly democratic, right, with multi-party, and they're behaving badly. So we have countries. We have China, for example, that runs a totally different system of elections, of course, but basically managed by the state. And the question is, does it actually function? So you see, for me, what is important is that whichever system of government or governance that you have in place, you must actually have fidelity to it. Right. Yeah, including a dictatorship. Dictatorships work because there's some ethics that the dictator must actually adhere to. Right. Otherwise, they get kicked out. So these people who are actually messing around with our democracy are the problem. That there's a way a democratic system is meant to work. Right. And we elect you. We elect you as a democratic leader. We expect you to hold yourself up to some values. We expect you to uphold the Constitution. We expect you to have some particular ways of governing according to that particular type of government of governance. You're not an emperor. Right. But the problem is a lot of we are bad leaders and we are bad governance. A lot of people don't bother about the system that they're actually running. Right. In fact, in that same West Africa, we have countries like Mali that are being applauded in the continent, and they're actually military. So my point is that whichever system of government you have in place, people must. You ensure you actually deliver within the ethos of that type of governance. Yeah. Okay. So this is a problem that for democracies, elections are very important. Okay. Now, if you don't run our democracies properly, then the military will come in. But and as it is, of course, we also have terrible military rule. But you can also have relatively decent military rules. Okay. You can, actually. It's possible. We've seen benevolent dictators in different parts of the world stabilizing their countries, and some of them even transitioning to democracy because that's the best known system of government. Right. But that is the issue, that for the countries that purport to run democracy, they should adhere to the standards of democracy. That is what they've chosen. Otherwise, turn yourself into a military ruler or turn yourself into a dictator, right, and then we'll judge you by the standards of dictatorship. And it then begs the question, just what is democracy? And is it that confusing that today we can talk about a single party system working for a certain country? The next day you hear Orengo reminding us that we must strive not to go back to single partyhood at some point in time, where he says, well, we have seen the fruits that have been borne by us shifting to multi-party, kind of system. All this is democracy, but is it that confusing, Dismas?
You know, especially, I mean, from what Mr. James Orengo said, although I don't have the full context, there is generally an assumption that a political party is put together by an ideology or a philosophy. But in the obtaining environment in most African countries, a political party is a special purpose vehicle owned by a powerful politician. And normally what they do is they beat up people from their ethnic community into a pulp and make sure all of them are aligned. And then now they get other members, and then they form a special purpose vehicle, which is led by a certain politician. So essentially, it's not really a political party.
Correct.
I mean, when you look at ODM, one would have assumed long time ago that ODM was indeed a political party. But now with the exit of Mr. Raila Odinga, the glue that was holding ODM together is melting away. So in fact, there's no political party called ODM.
Okay.
But when you go to other mature democracies, it doesn't matter whether it's Nancy Pelosi in town or Barack Obama or George Bush. The Democrats will be Democrats.
Right.
Conservatives will be conservatives. If it's in the UK, you have your Labour. You go to your Lib Dem. So you actually know that there's a political party.
Correct.
The leader comes
Labour.
and exits.
Correct.
But when you come to Africa,
It's the leaders who are there.
yeah, it's
the
the
political
leaders.
parties come and exist.
And then also, unfortunately,
Yeah.
there are some people who romanticize military leaders.
Yes.
And in my view, from where I'm seated, you'd rather have a democratically
And
elected leader
Then-
who does not deliver, because you know at least every 5 years
can
or
change
every
it.
4 years, you'll try to kick him out.
Yeah.
And when you question him, he will not send you to the battlefields. You know, in some of these military leaders, especially the young ones in parts of West Africa,
West Africa, right.
they're answerable to themselves.
True.
And they have immunized themselves by ensuring that there is a lot of misinformation
Right.
and disinformation.
True.
There is, the first thing a military ruler does is suspend the constitution,
Correct.
suspend all civil liberties.
Right.
And you ask a question, you stop a bullet. You ask the second question, you stop a bullet.
Right.
So in my view, what we must do is, especially for people like Kenya, where you've got a multi-party sort of government, is to make sure that we elect the sharpest tools in the shed in any elective position. But unfortunately in Kenya, for some reason, because of the Stockholm syndrome, where we fall in love with our captors, or the wabi-sabi philosophy from Japan, where you see finesse in horrible things. I mean, like, you remember, when he was alive, Mr. Raila Odinga was never wrong. And when he was wrong, you try to point out, in fact, you're the one who is wrong. You'll be disciplined for that.
Okay.
You recall when James Orengo took a divergent path, he was punished. You remember when Anyang' Nyong'o took a divergent path, he was punished.
True.
So,
And is there anything wrong with that? Because when you talk about punishment, they're talking about the party dictates, and they all understand that if you have four...
No, you are assuming, you're actually assuming that it is a political party.
The party.
They are on the ODM party, and they say that they have their own constitution they are in. I mean, you must understand that this is a very prominent...
But again, you
All right.
It's the same thing.
You see now you are in...
Under the guise of...
You're in yellow color, so I don't know whether...
well, I am dressed. Well.
But you remember a few days ago, when Mr. Raila Odinga's daughter expressed the view that let's go and do an NDC.
Right.
Then Raila Odinga's brother, who is now the party leader, said, we are going to have a behind the tent conversation.
Yes.
But guess what? ODM is run on taxpayer resources.
Okay.
So I start wondering,
Why should
all
it be?
taxpayers in Kenya, probably the ones who finance the celebrations in Mombasa,
Yes.
then when he's raising a very pertinent issue, but Raila Odinga says, "Hii mambo ya familia." Now, a political party has become
Yes.
a family property. You know, if you're running an M-Pesa kiosk across the road, you decide when you're going to open, when you're going to close, whether you're going to sell onions or vegetables. But we are talking about a political party which is funded by taxpayer, and with alacrity. Dr. Oburu Odinga says, we are going to have a behind-the-tent conversation.
Yes.
What are we talking about? Now, let's go to Tanzania.
Hold it. I want Benji to say something so that he also doesn't feel like he's not part of the show. Perhaps weigh in on that.
Multi-party.
Is Dismas reading so much into that? Oh, yeah, with politics, you must always be on alert to do that.
Linda, I could have actually waited, but let me clarify something Professor Menya was trying to make the point of. Linda, I've worked with you for a long time, for many years, and you know my theme is always consistent.
All right.
everything rises and falls on leadership.
Right.
And having said that, Professor Menya spoke about bad leaders. What he actually meant, and I'm sorry to correct a prof, but you know, he's an architect by training, and I'm a political scientist. What he actually meant is, you see, leadership works if you have, it's a dichotomy.
Correct.
Good people or bad people. So in the first place, these are not leaders.
Right.
And the reason Tanzania was stable, my brother, is because Mwalimu Julius Nyerere was, by all accounts, a good
leader. Exactly.
Good leader.
Correct.
He was a single party, a good leader. How was he a good leader? Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, and I never met him because I was not old enough,
Yes.
and he was not my president.
Right.
You know, it's not like he paid me to say this.
Right.
Mwalimu Julius Nyerere was a committed nationalist,
Correct.
a Pan-Africanist,
Correct.
and an uncorrupt leader.
Correct.
A leader with a vision for Tanzania,
Correct.
against tribalism,
Correct.
and for Ujamaa, unity.
Correct.
In fact, even for the East African community. So just imagine such a setting. You have here a one-party dictatorship,
and he was able to
basically,
do it
and he was able to do it in a very decent fashion.
Correct.
You could go to another example and say, for instance, the US, which is 250 years old and tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Look at the US today under Trump.
The leader today. Correct.
Compare with President Joe Biden.
Right.
Compare with President Barack Obama and, for instance, President Bill Clinton. The US today, there's a lot of suffering.
Correct.
There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of chaos. There's a real threat to institutions. Yet it's a multi-party democracy.
Correct. Exactly.
And the world's most powerful, wealthiest nation.
Correct.
And with strong structures and
And
systems.
with strong structures.
Exactly.
It is
And that's what's
because, and this is an important point to make, because even for us, if you look at these by-elections tomorrow, Linda, and if you look at 2027, if you look at the whole ICC debate in 2013, if you look at 2022, Kenyans are grappling. Dismas, my brother, spoke about Stockholm Syndrome and what have you. Kenyans are ever in a predicament where they insist on choosing the wrong people. Kenyans choose thugs, they choose killers, thieves, and spend a lot of time agonizing. I saw the report today from Oxfam. 125 individuals have equivalent money to 42 million.
Yeah.
Right.
So huge disparity. How do you, so basically, Linda, what we're saying is you have a corrupt country where the rich and the poor live together side by side. And so again, if you don't have in leadership what you fundamentally can say, Dismas is a good man. He's the governor of Kakamega, the governor of Nairobi, fundamentally, at first instance, is a good man.
Exactly.
But we are all.
If you don't have that,
we're not short of these individuals, to be honest. And
it's only
every
that they're
time-
not in politics.
And
They are-
maybe some are, but like you have rightfully said, Kenya
They're the minority. They're the minority.
Okay.
And so a lot of the good people, because of how indecent our politics is, because of how toxic it is, Linda, a lot of them, they're in corporate, some are in churches.
Okay.
In fact, is that capture that we're talking about?
You remember? You remember we've spoken
don't-
about this times
Make it
above
tight,
number.
so that we come to Prof. All right.
Yeah, we said times above number that if you want to make progress, character, capacity, and competence.
Yes.
You may have leaders with high levels of capacity and competence,
But no character.
Character is a miss.
Okay.
You remember for the longest time we were told that the reason why Kenya was not making progress was because of a horrible constitution. When President Kibaki took office, with what was described as a horrible constitution,
That was
because of character,
Exactly.
Yeah.
we made very good progress.
Yes. True.
But now the biggest challenge we have is that as we approach an election, I mean, for 4.5 years, all Kenyans are very logical. They think they're very rational. They know that meritocracy is associated with good outcomes. They appreciate democratic meritocracy for 4.5 years. But as soon as we get Easter of 2027, then Professor Menya remembers, wait a minute, I come from Siaya. This must remember, wait a minute, I come from Osocho. Then we sacrifice meritocracy. And I mean, when you go to the village on Saturdays and Sundays, guys who are known to be architects of wash in Nairobi are the ones who are celebrated by the local pastor and the local priest. They say kijana fulani ameenda Nairobi and he has been blessed. Paka is in a state of shock because this guy has engaged in mischief, corruption. He goes home in a chopper. And then for the normal peasants back in the village, they're not even given an opportunity to speak. So this is the guy who's given a front row seat. The local bishops, they're called overseers, everybody else. They dance to their drum beats. A man who is hardly 24 is referred to as a mzee. A mzee who is 84 and ambiwa we kijana simama mzee akae. Because we glorify. Don't you remember this thing when EACC, when once in a while when they are bulldogs and they arrest somebody, and we know for a fact this guy has been stealing Mora's resources. Somebody, and we have said this times above number, somebody that today cannot afford a cup of tea at a 5-star hotel, 3 months after being sworn into office, they can afford to buy the 5-star hotel.
They're living in Karen.
Yeah.
What I hear loudly, and Prof, I come to you, is that we are also blaming the electorate, perhaps largely blaming the electorate, because even as we're talking about this by-elections, we've had left, right, and center of these allegations of one of the key contenders having changed their names, perhaps, for whatever reason you'd want to call it. And of course, that is something that is to be substantiated, and the reasons why this happened as well. But the electorates would probably proceed to overlook that and vote them in. As Benji has highlighted, they come with lots of dots and lots of color, that is not so good. Yet we proceed to elect them. So what does it speak? Should we proceed to blame the politician or the electorate? And what will it take for us to change this?
I think, Linda, to take it forward from the conversation we're having, and to pick it from democracy, then we'll get to your question or assertion, as it actually were. You see, here we are running a system that we largely don't believe in. So I think we need to take a step back and ask ourselves, why democracy in the first instance? Right. And democracy really is a political economy. It is one way of organizing society around, on one hand, politics and governance issues, and on the other hand, to ensure that economics work. And of course, at the core of this is capitalism and capital accumulation. Right. You see, in capitalist nations or communities, what happens is that those with capital invest and make a lot of wealth. And then, of course, you have the working class. Those societies tend to create inequality. So you need to moderate individuals with capital. Otherwise, they'll run roughshod over everyone. And this is now why you need democracy in the first instance. You need people to have a say in terms of what people are creating wealth. Number one, how they're creating that wealth. Right. And how that wealth can be, what it should be used for, and what you can do and cannot do. Because otherwise, the 120-something people we're talking about would actually do anything they want to do with us if we didn't have democracy. Right. And
who owns Kenya?
Exactly. So you see, we have other systems like socialism, which is totally different. Capital is in communist socialist systems is controlled by the state. It's not by corporations or individuals. So democracy is needed in a capitalist system. That's the only place where you need democracy, because this minority, the working class, the poor, these people must have a say in terms of how their society runs. And what is the consequence? The consequence is that you create a stable society where those who are making money are not worried that somebody will chop their head, because there's rule of law, people can be locked up and so on. And these laws are made by the majority on one hand. So you stabilize the place for expansion and creation of wealth. So people like Elon Musk, who are wealthier than half the African nations, can actually coexist with ordinary people, and those ordinary people have a mechanism through democracy to have a say in terms of what Elon Musk can do with his wealth and cannot do with his wealth. And that's how this is meant to work, that people then elect the people who create rules, who then decide how wealth then is used, who regulate the markets, who put taxes, who provide security and so on. And you create a stable society where everybody can thrive, including addressing some of these issues that we're talking about of inequality. Because people can decide that, no, it is not, somebody should not make this much wealth in a society where somebody is poor. Those things can actually be put in our laws and so on. So this is where the problem comes in. When the system is working, there's absolutely no problem because you get the right people, these people make laws, those laws are followed, and then society is stable. But in our situation, what we have is not democracy as such. It is actually, we capture the democracy has been captured by criminals. Okay. It's kleptocracy actually. It is a cabal of thieves who come in and they take over the system. So on the face of it, the shell is democracy. But the reality, the content, is basically just a system being run by thugs who are looting the country and are not even creating this environment where people can make wealth. They're not creating this environment where you can get equity. They're not creating this environment where you can actually, have your rights taken care of and so on. So you see, rule of law, as I wind up, you see, rule of law, the constitution and so on, is critical in a democracy. That's why when you have a military rule, the first thing they do is to suspend the constitution and rule of law, because as a dictator, you don't need that. Right. That's a different system. They're changing the system. But as long as you remain democratic, we are all bound by the constitution. Right. We are all bound by the rule of law. I can't just do what I want. The president can't just do what they want and so on. But what happens here is that the president and his people suspend the constitution without saying it. Right. They do things which are actually illegal while purporting to be following the rule of law. So what you end up creating is this chaotic system that cannot actually deliver what a truly democratic system, can deliver for society.
And I want to trust that then in this case you're looking at an overall umbrella of things. If we're going to narrow it down and politicize the conversation a bit, perhaps before I come to you, Dismas, we go to Benji and look at some of the concerns that we're raising right now before we even go to the by-elections. The president, for a moment, reduces the volume on his better plans and speak of making us a first world country. Could this then solve or address what it is that we're talking about today in terms of the discrepancies and inequalities that we continue to see? Benji.
So thieves make us first world.
And the question is what?
And Benji, and the way
whether the president
we're looking at basically what it is that we're talking about. But Dismas, now that Dismas has had the question, I throw it to him and then
we come back.
Okay.
You see, while if you're talking about a leader, whether it's in the corporate or the private or public sector, the leader paints the general picture of what he wants the organization or the nation to achieve.
Right.
Correct.
And then you do two things after painting the picture. You get your human resource, or other people call it human capital. You make sure you get the sharpest tools in the shed.
Correct.
And then you assign financial resources.
Correct.
So in my view, there's nothing wrong when President Ruto says that we want to be a first world.
Yeah.
All he needs to do is define the parameters, identify the critical success factors, and identify the critical path that we must achieve. But when you look at it in totality, the biggest thing you must do is get your sharpest tools in the shed. Right. President Ruto is on record as saying that a good number of members of the National Assembly are in fact corrupt. That they're given khaki envelopes stashed with up to 10,000, as some members have confessed, to review their positions on matters of national and public interest. Can you imagine 10,000 bob? Now, this report which has come today has said that we've got a group of 125 people with money coming out of their nostrils. Right. Can you imagine one of those individuals can actually influence the outcome of conversations at the National Assembly? Because if it all takes is 10,000 bob to influence a conversation, and you only need to influence 50%, then you probably don't need a National Assembly. Right. You don't need a National Assembly. Exactly. Now, the reason why you need to have solid leaders, and Professor Menya is socialized with this subject, we've got a body called the National Land Commission. The last couple of days, they've been coming up with decisions that some people are describing as unconstitutional, others are describing as interesting, and they're saying that they want to address historical injustices by getting land from maybe corporates or big landowners and giving the land to the marginalized. But these people referred to as the marginalized remain nameless and faceless. They've not been named. But guess what? Who's going to be the beneficiary? The national elite and the county elite. So first of all, the National Land Commission is accused of taking decisions which are unconstitutional and described as interesting. And scholars and practitioners have got divergent views on that issue. And what happens? Now, instead of giving these lands to the people who deserve, you've got a number of these elected politicians masquerading as the people who are nameless or faceless, and giving themselves that piece of land. You remember when the white man left Kenya, there was that accusation that land which was meant for Tom, Dick, and Harry went to the ruling class.
Right.
Therefore, it means that you can go to the top of Mount Kenya or Kilimanjaro and shout yourself hoarse. But if you do not have people who respect the rule of law and order, and you remember we've spoken about the importance of meritocracy, meritocratic leadership. Right now, domiciled in a country called Malaysia, another one called Singapore, another one called Japan. And in those countries, when elected leaders take wrong decisions, they're better off committing suicide. Because you can't even face your voters.
Right.
Forget about voters. You can't even face your partner at home. They'll ask you what is happening. You know, in those countries, your spouse knows your bank balance. So in the morning you live with a Vitz. In the evening you come with the top of the Range Rover.
They will question that.
They'll question you and they'll not even serve you food. But in Kenya, what happens? Let's call our local pastor to come and bless this car. And you don't even know the source.
And interesting.
It's a blessing.
I appreciate that the gentlemen that I have here have traveled the world.
Yes.
And therefore, I don't know whether we all understand the concept of the first world at all, so that we can as well celebrate look forward to it. But yes, Benji, I now know that you're a lad. Do you suppose or do you envision this
I was looking at so much feedback
to transform
online.
Kenya from
We're
hard
getting
work?
so much feedback online. I'm surprised people are watching at this late
Why are you
hour.
surprised, Benji? You must know.
Because it's
Linda,
quite a,
Benji.
yeah, it's quite a late hour, so I'm
Be
just
surprised.
You shouldn't be surprised.
You shouldn't be surprised.
You are surprised that he's surprised.
Surprised, you know. But anyway, yes, Benji. So to a first world.
Honestly, this discussion on first world, first of all, and I want to echo something President Obama said here 10 years ago. You covered him when he was here in 2015. And the president said, you know, we shouldn't be too sensitive. Kenyans are a bit sensitive when it comes to truth telling, and it's a cultural thing.
Right.
It begins with our parents' generation, where Kenyans just feel, you know, you remember, again, back to the ICC debate. You know, you remember Carson saying, you know, Kenyans must choose wisely, you know, ICC suspects have history, etc., etc. And people got very angry about that.
We chose the ICC
They said, no, we're just going to choose who the hell we want to choose because we are Kenyans, etc., and we're independent and we're sovereign.
Correct.
And so the discussion on Kenya being first world, you know, the president is saying tuko nyuma sana. That's basically what Ruto is saying, is that we are way behind. We have a lot to do, and we need to do it very quickly and very ambitiously. But Kenyans are taking offense with that statement because they feel like, you know, why are you telling us we're behind? But that real talk is very important. And I agree with the president that, you know, on housing, on infrastructure, Linda, we've spoken about this before. The port city of Mombasa connects to the capital city of Nairobi. It connects with a 2-lane road. That's like a back road in Australia. That's like a farm road in developed countries. How can you even move freight? The SGR that Uhuru brought is a diesel, outdated 1981 contraption. When you talk about light rail, again on infrastructure, if you talk about doing all these things in a way that creates a lot of opportunity for jobs. Now, where I think the argument is if you want to catapult the country that fast, you're hiring incompetent ministers.
Exactly.
I saw a discussion today on J.B. Muturi's book on tribalism. You just want to put Kales in positions. File comes, it has no Form 4 certificate, it has no degree certificate, it has no this. And the AG asks, what is this, or in the public service, a public service minister, and then he's told, oh, you know, State House want you to just put that person in. Now, if you don't have the right talent, if you don't have the right values, if guys you're putting in are busy selling deals, if you're putting, for example, NCA 1, he's an architect, he knows what I'm talking about here, you're issuing NCA certificates to a hardware shop, to fellows who've never built anything. And you want to give them business to put up affordable housing, which is the president's pet project. And perhaps these guys are well connected. Then that doesn't work. What he's trying to do, therefore, cannot work if you're just racking up debt and packing incompetent fellows who do not share the vision and don't have the capacity and definitely not the character.
Right.
Then I think that's where the argument is. But in theory, the argument about Kenya lagging behind, our national grid is unstable, it is low power. Linda, development is not where it needs to be at all. You just come out of Nairobi, kidogo tu, between Nairobi here and Thika, you find all manner of slums, no proper, clean, piped, dependable running water.
We have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go. That's a fact.
I see you,
As painful
Let's
as
allow Prof to come in. And Prof, on the backdrop of this, the people of Kenya are likely to be convinced. And in 2027, they say, let's add Dr. William Ruto another term, because then he speaks of 7 years to come and there'll be a whole change in terms of development. You want to look at his track record, and you also want to look at the promises that he gives to the nation. Right. This is viable?
In fact, this is to pick it from what Benji is saying. There's a guy called Apadurai who writes about a human trait called capacity to aspire. Okay. So it says that that's an intrinsic capacity in humans. So if you have no ability to aspire, maybe we need to do tests and find out whether you really are human.
Ambition.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever you call it. So the thing is that the aspirations of the president is totally in order, and indeed the aspiration of Kenya's people. But then you see, the question is that what do you aspire to, and how do you get to those aspirations? And I've always given this example that you meet me today on my boda, ferrying people around, and you tell me that, Omenya, next week you will actually be owning a chopper that you'll be using, a private chopper, that will have bought you the money and so on, and you disappear. You don't even tell me how that would actually happen. I'm likely to think that you're insane. Okay. And on the other hand, if you come and tell me, Omenya, I've seen the way you're doing your things. Maybe if you're drinking less, if you planned your money a little bit, and I can help you with basic accounting, believe it or not, in 6 months' time or even a year's time, you could have bought a second boda, and you could have employed somebody who drives that around. The quality of your life is likely to go up. Right. Go to the bar on Friday. And believe it or not, you may even be able to own a chopper in the future. To me, that is now where serious leadership is connected with vision. Okay. And let me tell you first the problem I have with the president, and it's a personal problem, with his statement of wanting us to be like first world. I think it is naive and it's very stupid, and it's disheartening. It's like a parent who every time they come to you, they tell you, why can't you be like your neighbor's kid? Your neighbor's kid is very sharp in school. Your neighbor's kid plays basketball. Your neighbor's kid does 1, 2, 3, 4 things and so on. That's parent A. Parent B comes and tells you, my boy, I saw the way you're playing soccer. Maybe if you trained a little bit more, you'd be a bit better. I saw the way you're working hard in the farm and so on. I think maybe, with the little money that you're getting here, you can get a few hands and get better. So you're not always just comparing yourself with other people that are so way ahead that the only thing we're doing is to feel bad about ourselves. Why do I say that? So for me, it's actually a parent with inferiority complex. Right. The one who wants to be like the neighbor that he can never be. Where you're saying, no, be like that guy. And you're not. It's not possible for us to be like these guys. And that's partly why, I hate that first world nonsense.
And we put disclaimers to some of the things.
I've been to those, whatever. Of course, we understand that it's also used metaphorically. Right. But the way I would look at it is that, is it possible for the president and his people to make Kenya a better country than they found it? Is it possible for the president to fix this poverty thing we're talking about. We are saying actually that 40-something percent, 7% of Kenyans are actually dollar poor. You know, can we reduce that number? Can we get the health system functioning, you know, so that people don't die, so that you don't join all these WhatsApp groups, you know, to send people to India?
And I think I'll ask.
Can we get our education system fixed? These ones that we're actually doing and we have resources. Can we reduce corruption? Can we have decency in government? Can we avoid wastefulness in all these other places? And so that we're saying, okay, fine, Omenya, look at it. You know, this was your lot 3 years ago. It is getting better. And at that point now, when you're telling me that actually you can even be like first world, you know, I really have no issue with that. But my problem is that almost every single indicator, especially the indicators that we are in control of, we are doing badly in all of them. And we are going downstream, including public debt. In fact, the central bank governor was giving his report to Parliament, and for the first time he said Kenya is actually in debt distress. We actually overborrowed.
Can we?
So can we fix these things, and then give us these lofty ideas? I asked the other day.
Yes.
We had all these hustlers, whom the president he had wanted to improve their lives. Is the lives of the hustlers better? Can we be able to say yes? This when my government took over, the hustlers were in this state. Now they have a little bit more money in their pockets. Now they're thriving in business and so on.
Yes, and I want to take it away.
So for me, let us just be a good country. Let's forget about this nonsense of Singapore, first world, and I don't know what. Let's just run our country well.
I mean, we don't want to grow, to be honest. How do we acknowledge that we have a problem and we do not want to fix that problem for a moment? Can we in less than 1.5 years?
You know, it appears that Professor Menya and Dr. William Samoei Ruto are classmates. They were at university at the same time.
That's why he says it's personal.
For me, from where I'm seated and the way I see it, there's absolutely nothing wrong for Dr. William Samoei Ruto to paint a picture of where he wants Kenya to be, so that we become aspirational. I mean, before we started the show, Professor Menya was showing me some properties with the minimalist architectural designs, which is very impressive, and I'm aspiring to own one. So I don't have any inferiority complex, but I just want.
I don't know why he didn't show me the same properties.
I don't know why he did not.
I have money.
You are busy on your mobile phone. And now, for you to make progress as a country, 3 things need to happen whether or not you study or understand economics. You must get FDI, foreign direct investment.
Correct.
You must grow your international markets, and you must create opportunities for your, what is referred to as human capital, local or at an international level. Now, under Dr. William Samoei Ruto, you may have noticed that Musalia Mudavadi has done a very good job in positioning Kenya as an FDI destination. You are having international investors coming to Kenya, which for me is the reason why I find it an exciting proposition that Kenya Pipeline, that in fact you can have our neighbors being shareholders of a Kenya Pipeline Corporation. I see absolutely nothing wrong, provided we make sure that in having them becoming shareholders or being investors at Kenya Pipeline, we do not lose a strategic asset, or we do not compromise our national and the public interest. Because, I mean, if by making the Ugandan authorities or the Ugandan government being part of the shareholders of Kenya Pipeline, will guarantee that they're not going to use our neighbors' facilities for their business, then so be it. In fact, in my view, at the port of Mombasa, we should be asking all countries that use the port of Mombasa, we should form an advisory committee so that the users can be advising the leadership of KPA on how to run the institution. We should be having all our neighbors, right from DRC, Uganda, Burundi, all of them, having a view on how the port of Mombasa works. Now, when you're positioning Kenya as an FDI destination, and then you have these government agencies like the National Land Commissions taking decisions which may stop FDI, then you begin to wonder, what is the logic, what is the rationale of taking decisions which may compromise Kenya's position as an FDI destination? And then, unlike a professor here, who seems to have issues with President Ruto, one of the biggest responsibilities of a leader is to dream and you dream big, and you inspire the entire nation.
Right.
But in inspiring the entire nation, you must make sure that you have a meritocracy. If you look at the leadership of countries like North Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, when you look at their cabinet composition, their profiles are so impressive, you really begin to wonder, are these people running a country, or these guys are at a university?
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of qualification they have is just amazing. Now, when you talk about leadership, and one of my colleagues here raised an issue, which I found to be very interesting, that it doesn't matter whether you're in Africa, Asia, Europe, or America, you can get leaders coming on board and then you're just dropped to the ground. For instance, Donald Trump, he has proved that he is more powerful than all those American institutions, to an extent when a retired captain of the Navy, a gentleman called Mark Kelly, says, do not obey illegal orders.
Nice.
Merely repeating what the Constitution calls for.
And Trump
says that is sedition. And you know, this discussion we're having here can deny us visas to the US. But so be it. Because you see, Mark Kelly, who is said to be, is a senator and he may even run for president. Right. And others said, do not obey illegal orders. And what is Trump talking about? This guy
should be killed.
I perhaps wouldn't allow you to continue with that conversation so that I'm also not denying.
Trump had a criminal case which was dropped today, today, Wednesday. But you know, he's also a convicted felon, no matter the context. This is the kind of person that we're talking about.
Exactly.
To put someone like that in the White House or in any office.
And guess what? This is the same gentleman who said that he can go to the middle of New York. I've never been to New York.
I have.
He will shoot somebody.
On 5th Avenue.
And people will still elect him into office.
Yes.
Guess why that happens? Stockholm Syndrome.
Correct.
Emotional and irrational followers.
Maturity.
That as far as those people are concerned, this guy will never guess anything wrong. Now, in Kenya, we must run away from that.
Correct.
We must have the guts to look at Professor Menya is a professor of architecture, but we can tell him that on this issue of saying nonsense, it's wrong in reference to the president. Give him his respect. Now, if we don't do that, then we are not making progress.
Right.
Our biggest challenge is that Kenyans tiptoe around critical issues. Instead of looking at the bull and addressing critical issues, we tiptoe around issues, we go to social media, we make jokes. When you know that our governor has been caught with his pants down, you justify why he's stealing. You know, I come from Kisii, and we had a minister, one of the first engineers in Kenya. And his master, he was said to be a top student in integral calculus. I don't know whether most Kenyans would know what integral calculus is. He served as an MP and he served as a cabinet minister.
Right.
He never, he never stole anybody's coin.
Right.
So when he's seen driving a beat up Volvo in Kisii, it breaks down and he repairs it. People look at him and they say, "Ubwana alikuwa serikali akujipanga." However,
he never stole.
However, when people see these guys who come to Nairobi and they steal in truckloads, we go to the top of Mount Kenya and clap for them, and even invoke the Bible and say that they've been showered with blessings.
Okay.
The guys are not.
You may have seen these prosperity gospel churches. These are the people they want to entertain.
Right.
They're showered with blessings.
So it goes back to the electorate.
It goes back to the voter.
That's what I was saying.
It goes back to the voter. Because, like for instance, people who have presented themselves for these by-elections. For instance, if you look at the candidate for Malava, I understand it's called Ndakwa.
And I'm glad that you bring the Malava candidate on board, because then I think that helps us to shift to that conversation. You speak of Musalia Mudavadi, who has done well in selling us in terms of FDI. But has he done well in terms of selling the Malava candidate that is going to secure and deliver this and save himself politically?
In my view, he's done a wonderful job, because for the longest time, a gentleman called Oparanya.
And I want you to make tight,
Oparanya had no time for Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula, but you saw the three of them who are considered to be heavyweights campaigning for that gentleman called Ndakwa. And Ndakwa, in my view, he fits the bill when you talk about capacity, character and competence. But there are political parties, UDA, ODM, that for some reason, they've not brought out their sharpest tools in the shed. When you know that this candidate has got his reputation tainted and you are pushing him through, how do you think voters will think? Even look at Kaspul. And you remember we indicated that with the
I want to take it away from you, yes.
Yeah, with the exit of Mr. Raila Odinga, there's going to be freedom, political freedom and meritocracy in Luo Nyanza. So the Governor Wanga's deputy has said, wait a minute, I'm not supporting the ODM candidates.
True.
I'm supporting these independent candidates because it may bring more value. So you have Wanga's deputy governor, Owidi and others who are saying, wait a minute, we are not dancing to Governor Wanga's drumbeat. And in my view, the two people in Kenya who will be having many sleepless nights till IEBC calls out the winners, number one is Professor Kithure Kindiki. Because if the UDA candidate does not win, then Professor Kindiki may get a role at a university. And then for Wanga, she'll be a chapter in history books.
Okay, hold it right there. And I want us to expand and look at the political implications for certain individuals and parties. But before that, Benji, does it not disturb you to see the speaker going out to campaign?
Ministers.
To see ministers going out to campaign? I mean, okay, well, the deputy president could be forgiven. But
it's bothersome, but let us all be honest and sincere, even with ourselves.
Right.
The president did not support the constitution. He didn't believe in it.
Okay.
So therefore, as much as he's the president and he's a big beneficiary, I think, Linda, I'm just such a pragmatist.
Okay.
Sometimes my expectations are realistic. My expectations are realistic. It's like expecting, because Uhuru liked to have a drink, that Ruto will also have a drink. You know, so I think if you look at things from a very, I'm not saying it's right, from a practical standpoint, right? You know, the No campaign felt that this constitution is too liberal, that it's too, I mean, there are leaders even who believe in, let me not say imperial presidency, but a super strong presidency. And why is that? Trump is one of them, for example.
Right.
You know, Trump can't understand how a judge can rule against him. It's because they want to have the power to ramrod and drive things and their agenda in a certain way. So a lot of these things are inconveniences because he's thinking the deputy president is a politician, the deputy president is my deputy. How come he cannot go and campaign for me? How come the speaker, who is a former senator, you know, so again, so unfortunately what happens then is the constitution becomes an inconvenience. And to be fair, why I don't like to be mostly unfair to William, because sometimes there's a bit of unfairness towards Ruto. Uhuru Kenyatta didn't care about the constitution. He didn't lead the No campaign, but Uhuru could give a rat's backside about the constitution. He made it just plainly obvious. In fact, many a time when there were court orders, we can give many examples, but let's give Miguna's example. There were
always contempt of court.
There were 17 court orders
under
President Uhuru and CS Matiang'i. They asked the judges to buzz off, to F off.
All right.
So let us not put it like it's only Ruto who doesn't care about the constitution. That's not a fair analysis. Now, it doesn't make it right.
Okay.
It's extremely unhygienic. It's not neat. It looks bad. But there's many factors. For instance, again, in Malava with the Western, Farouk, the president's PA, Kibet, has insisted on bulldozing, and he's the one running, you know, the money bags and all of that. So politicians have kept off. And again, this is unhygienic. It is toxic. It's not neat.
And it has happened.
And it puts the presidency in disrepute. Okay. So this is what I say always, Linda. If you're working for a president, remember the things you do. Like you look like you can work for a president, even though you're dressed. Things you do.
No, the way I'm dressed, you can be rest assured. It is not 12. It's not 12 midnight. You can be rest assured that I won't be wearing this
They
tomorrow.
can either make the president look good or make the president look bad.
Right.
But look at what a lot of these guys do. I don't want to name their names. They make the president look bad in the eyes of the public.
Is it so?
That's their problem.
Is it about the president or the oath of office that they swore, the constitution and all that, to acknowledge that it doesn't look neat to have CSs out there? I'm just imagining a scenario where, where the speaker has been campaigning for a certain candidate and this candidate does not succeed, and therefore another different candidate comes to parliament. How do they treat each other?
Yeah, Linda, the issue is that are public officers, state officers, are they expected to be partisan? Are they expected to take sides in political issues and so on? And does it affect the way they serve? And this is actually at the core of our constitution.
Right.
Before, these ministers as public officers, they were actually members of parliament representing particular areas. Then they would become ministers. And we realized that it was very difficult for them to serve the country in a neutral, non-biased way.
Right.
And there's so many provisions in our constitution that expect public officers to be non-partisan, especially on political issues. In fact, LSK, as we're talking now as a case in court, about this exact same issue. And I would take a slightly different, divergent position from Benji.
Right.
That, in fact, we need to shout on top of the mountains when the president is wrong, because he might start thinking that he's right if we are quiet. Yeah. So having ministers campaign, as it has happened in Bere, and it has happened in fact, in all these places. We have ministers campaigning in Ugunja. We have ministers campaigning in Homa Bay.
Right.
We have the speaker himself campaigning in Magarini. In Malava, we have the speaker, the minister, and so on.
Yes.
This is actually unconstitutional. It is against our laws.
Right.
Whichever way you look at it. Even from a common sense point of view, the president and his government is serving all Kenyans, regardless of the parties they came from. Of course, the president is a politician, we understand that.
Right.
But you cannot politicize civil service. You can imagine if you can only get services from a particular ministry, depending on the party you come from, or worse still, depending on your ethnicity. That is where we're going. So we have to say, we have to call this out. It is wrong.
And 2027 is around the corner.
It is totally wrong. And they'll be using our taxes, to actually go and put their candidates in place. Some of the things that have been going on around this campaign, and we're normalizing the absurd. Just the direct bribery of voters that has been happening outside there. And is in public domain, because now we've accepted it. I think Stockholm syndrome, as you were saying, we've sort of accepted that the politicians will not change. So why can't we just get the
one sentence, Linda?
Right.
Literally one sentence, so you can go to this mass. Now, what I find so disturbing and so problematic is that you see all these top political players, because I listen to them carefully. Those things we're talking about, they all do it.
Yes, true.
All. You can name names here, one after the other.
Opposition or
Musalia.
Correct, all of them.
Wamunyoro, what's Wamunyoro's name?
Gachagua.
Kalonzo. Even the ones who seem
All of them.
like they're nice and sweet and soft.
It's only when they're on the other side.
Some of us know all these people. What? Martha. These guys all do this funny business. Just scratch the surface and you'll see.
Correct.
That is very disturbing.
Now, Linda,
To Mr. Mokua.
Now, Linda, in theory, the president and his deputy cabinet secretaries, principal secretary, parastatal heads, for 5 years, they're supposed to give politics a white bath. In theory, it works very well. But as a student of applied politics, you deserve my opinion on this. It would be naive to imagine that a President William Samoei Ruto and Professor Kindiki and all these cabinet secretaries would ignore by-elections that have got a direct impact 2027.
Okay.
For instance, assuming that Wamunyoro's preferred candidate wins in Imbere, the amount of propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation Wamunyoro will generate will shock political scientists.
Okay.
Is Wamunyoro, I think...
Are you considering he's lethal?
is lethal.
Politically.
Yeah, politically. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Masters and PhD students will read and study Wamunyoro for many years to come. Like, for instance, he has made part of Mount Kenya believe that Mount Kenya is in the opposition. But if you care to count, how many cabinet ministers do you have from Mount Kenya in the cabinet today? How many principal secretaries do you have in the cabinet today from Mount Kenya? Parastatal heads, security heads. But Wamunyoro, almost single-handedly, you know, there's that saying, hook, line, and sinker, has made people in Mount Kenya believe that it's the entire of Mount Kenya which was kicked out of the administration. I haven't mentioned the majority leader and the clerk of the National Assembly. He has made everybody in Mount Kenya believe that it's Mount Kenya which was kicked out. But guess who was kicked out? One, Wamunyoro. And why was he kicked out? By being the high priest of tribalism. Why do you keep on telling us that if you're not a shareholder, you're not going to get a road? You know, it's got a brand of toxic politics. Okay. Yeah. And guess what? It's going to be the biggest threat to United Kenya opposition. You know, a few days ago, he proclaimed himself as the spokesman for the opposition, that if you want to have word with Kalonzo or Matiang'i, come and talk to me. In fact, he goes ahead and he says, we have 7 million votes, and they're in my pocket here. They're in my pocket here. And I'm going to dish and distribute them like a cake, a hot cake. So that is a little man. So if his candidate wins tomorrow, he will run William Samoei out of town. So do you think William Samoei... I
want Benji to weigh in.
But do you think President William Samoei,
will sit
who wants 2 terms, will sit pretty at State House having boiled meat?
But surely,
yeah.
William has politicians. Why can't he use politicians?
Okay.
He has UDA politicians. He has elected members of parliament.
He doesn't have to use...
He have MCAs. He does not have to use public officers.
A team leader...
Civil servants.
Right.
No, that is the theory I was talking about. A team leader,
yeah,
you have to hit the ground running and offer direction. But again, you notice he's not been very active in these by-elections.
Yes, exactly.
So it means that there's something which he knows that we do not know.
Okay.
Or there's
the allegations of stuffed ballots.
Okay.
Or there's something
there are
like
allegations of that. We've carried those stories.
I'm sure you look at that.
Finally, on
crazy.
these points, probability of stealing in a by-election is almost 0.
Okay, why?
Because, you know, you only have 23 elections tomorrow, and anybody who wants to become a president in Kenya today, anybody who has any political DNA will be watching those things right from A to Z. Benji Dono, who doesn't take coffee, will take coffee.
Malala said they have
love
to be...
coffee, just not at night.
Yeah. So there is no, I mean, and you know, again, let's go back to the US. Now, nobody in this table is going to the US anytime soon, because during the last presidential elections in the US, Donald Trump said, if I don't win, the election is not free, fair, nor credible. As soon as he was pronounced the winner, he said, this is the best election we've ever had in the US.
Of course.
Now, there are people who know that they're going to lose tomorrow, and they're already saying that you are going to get people from Kawangware going all the way to
1,500 people.
I mean, 1,500 people will just move from point A to point B invisible.
And Benji, I come to you.
But those are politicians.
Benji, I come to you. It doesn't look good. And yes, they are politicians. It really isn't, you know, as friendly an environment. It is toxic in a way. It is intolerant in a way. It is what it is that mirrors what it is that we will likely have in 2027. Are we telling the nation to get worried? Or are we telling the nation to brave for the worst?
I think, honestly, Linda, we just have to cut the crap. We have to grow up as a country. We have to mature. We have to aspire forwards and upwards, not backwards. Kenya should not go how Tanzania went. You know, sometimes you look at politics and you wonder what it's worth. So Tanzania did not have an election by any, you know, sense of the word. Suluhu is almost going to The Hague. I think a case was filed yesterday. I think they don't have national celebrations. I saw the military commander the same yesterday. And so you just wonder, what is really the value of desecrating democracy in such a fashion that it's unrecognizable? The fact that there are even these kinds of suspicions and allegations itself you know, it rubbishes, Linda, the whole concept of democracy, the security that we're trying to, you know, to enforce in this country, so that a by-election day is not like a state of emergency.
Exactly.
Right.
You want it to be quite a normal and good. The IEBC this is literally their first pregnancy tomorrow, delivery. If Ethekon, I think that's it, if he bungles tomorrow, there is no future. You understand? I mean, the stakes are that high. And the president is under siege, it's obvious. The president made a lot of promises. The president, you know, one term is a very big campaign against him. And so, you know, you don't want to lose credibility. You don't want to ever find yourself in the ICC again, as happened before. And so what is the best thing to do? To try to run as clean a campaign as possible, within the laws, within the constitution. I advise this often. I'm always able to try to push advice through to say, you know, don't do blatant violations of the constitution. The government in bad standing, it dilutes its credibility. You know, Linda, you don't run a government that in the eyes of Wanjiko or Mora, like looks like a criminal enterprise. You see, you don't have to do things in such a stupid or blatant or outright criminal fashion. And anyway, you know, where you don't have to have a situation where you don't have to rubbish social media, because people are saying openly that Kenya is a crime scene, that this is a bandit economy, that, you know, that thing Wamunyoro was saying, and you know, Wamunyoro is a consumer of intelligence until just the other day. This is the immediate former deputy president saying the president is running a criminal enterprise inside State House.
That's a big...
Now, for me as an advisor, it can never get to... When he says that, if, as a professional advisor, Professor, that's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt the president. You know why? Your first job is to protect the president. Like, how did things get to that point? And you remember when Gen Z happened last year.
As we cut to chase,
You and I spoke here. When Gen Z happened last year, the president, you know, you saw how much pressure he was under.
Yes, he took.
And when you guys asked him questions, the president conceded, yes, things have not gone well. And then he said, the problem with my government, I'm quoting him here, is my communications system, the entire communications has failed. Now, where he went wrong, nobody took accountability. In other words, he didn't fire anyone. So there's more around here. And
all the communication team is there intact.
And what's the guy from Citizen called?
Hussein,
there's Hussein. There's also the one that the former government spokesman runs. There's, I mean, it's...
Benji, yes, I take it away from you.
It's dysfunctional.
Because we have to quickly, not even slowly,
it's the president himself saying, my entire communication
Prof,
failed.
Yes.
Then what?
Prof, then when picking it up from Benji and as we come to a close, what then do these by-elections do to the ruling party? Does it, I mean, the by-election, do they go ahead to strengthen or weaken the ruling coalition? And we see political casualties as we close?
You see, there might be, but if you look at the by-elections, and I believe our president is way more intelligent than other people who are messing up their countries outside there. And I think as a leader, you always have to look at that bigger picture. And my argument has always been very simple, that you know, if you have power and you have resources and you have a support base, in this type of situations, you are likely to come on top, because the country hasn't changed as it was. People are not going to vote on the basis of merit and so on. Majority of them are going to vote on the basis of the monies they received, on the intensity of the campaigns, on those visuals and so on. So if you look at that scenario carefully, linked again with the communication that we're talking about, as far as I'm concerned, the president and the ruling coalition has absolutely nothing to worry about. It is just how they string the narrative. Look at it this way. There are very many elections, but let me use the 6 parliamentary elections. In Luo Nyanza, we have Kasipul, and we have Ugunja. Now, in Kasipul, either the ODM candidate will win, or an independent candidate, not an opposition candidate. In fact, that fellow is being supported by UDA. So regardless of who wins there, the president can take credit because after all, ODM is in broad-based government.
Right.
They can say a broad-based government candidate actually won. In Ugunja, the ODM candidate is definitely going to win. The dynamics
ODM will
there,
deliver in a nutshell.
Exactly.
All right.
So already that is 2 out of 6. Okay. The president is doing a third already. In Banisa, the UDM candidate, the former, in fact, the brother of Khalif, is actually going to win. And that deal was actually broken in State House. That's 50% already. Almost guaranteed, almost guaranteed. In Magarini, very, very likely, that ODM candidate supported by PA,
Cliffy Governor.
yes, is most likely going to win. That's already 60% in the president's basket. The only 2 places where the president might have problems is Mbere and Malaba. That can go either way. So the way I would look at it if I was an advisor is to say, okay, fine, regardless of the outcome of these elections, you can be able to string a narrative that says, look here, the coalition is very strong. Then somebody will say, just like we were saying that, just this one narrative that has been pushed so strongly by the former Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, is starting to make people look at things differently. So if I was to string that narrative, I would say, yes, it's true we have lost in case the ruling coalition loses Mbere.
Right.
But surely 80% is a very good performance by any degree.
I want us to look at the bigger picture, but we have to close.
60% is a very good thing.
Prof.
So as far as I'm concerned, if I was the president, I would love these elections to be free and fair, and then claim credit regardless of the outcome, because
thereafter,
because the outcome is likely to actually favor them.
And thereafter, Prof, and
yes.
thereafter, Prof,
Right.
when ODM will
Right.
come to remind him
Yes.
that we are actually strong. And so,
Exactly.
what are the chances that ODM is going to support?
In fact, as I wind up that,
And we have to close.
as I wind up that thought,
Yes.
it's just one quick statement that are we sure that the president does not want his team to lose in some of these areas?
Okay.
Because it might give him a chance to reorganize his government, the way he wants. But you see, now
That's why I asked whether they're going to be
now he has no
casualties.
basis for reorganizing. And that's partly why Mudavadi is worried.
And that's why I
about
asked you whether
Malava.
there's going to be
And
casualties.
that's why Kindiki
We have
is
to
worried
close.
in
Professor.
Bere, because if Kindiki loses, Ruto may as well just pick another deputy.
Deputy, let's donate 30 seconds and 30
And use
seconds
this
to
as an
Benji to
excuse.
close.
Yeah, you spoke about
30 seconds.
you spoke about the 2027 general elections.
Yes.
Yeah.
The biggest threat for President William Ruto will not even be the by-elections.
Yes.
It's communication challenges.
Right.
That he has not established a communication system that is able to speak to citizens,
Right.
stakeholders, and partners. If he doesn't do that, then his probability of being a one-term president is extremely high.
Okay.
Because 2027, Wamunyoro is going to flood Kenya,
Yes.
blanket with misinformation,
We have to
and Kenyans will swallow his lies, hook, line, and
Or what they call hard news. We're done.
We're done.
Allow me to just say thank you to, it's very late at night. Thank you, by the way, for inviting us to Usiku Sako.
Thank you.
It's literally going to midnight.
Uh-huh.
Sarah, Dominic, Gladys from DC, all the people watching. Steve Ogutu, who was with Mama Ida the other day. We're still mourning Raila, by the way. Mercy, Catherine. I'm just looking at the feedback here. And a lot of things. And thanks to your team
Thank
who tweet
you.
very well as well. I think this was a really good discussion. Nice to see you, Linda. It's been a while. I was last here just the other day with Dibal. Let's keep doing this, and let's do good coverage tomorrow, accurate
Right.
coverage.
Correct.
And thanks to everyone who's watching, and let's keep having meaningful discussion.
There's no better way to say it. I think those will be my parting
He's
shots.
taking your job.
Very, very well.
He's taking my job, and I like it. I appreciate
Linda's always my person.
it. Thank you so much.
I can see the synergy.
Yeah. Chemistry. But she has a husband.
Yes. Please go.
Linda's my
So it
person.
depends on who's asking. Benji Dolo, last speaker, Benji Dolo, political analyst,
Thank you, darling.
as well as Professor Alfred Omenya, governance and policy analyst, and last but not least, Dismas Mukua, political risk analyst. And my name is Linda Alela. I realize that most Kenyans are actually lovers of Usiku Sako. I see you again. Thank you so much for always keeping it. TV47, we close the inside.
Guy.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay,
That was nice.